So, welcome, Christy. I am super thrilled to be talking to you.
I'm super excited to be here.
Excellent. So, that is a huge transformation, right? Going from a toxic job, from a relationship that where you're not happy, to and also kind of on the personal level, turning to drinking quite a bit, and then flipping that, completely turning it around in 2 years. So my first question is, and I think anybody's question is, how did you do it?
Little by little and without a plan, which is probably the most encouraging part for anyone trying to make a change, much less a bunch of changes.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe let's tease it apart. I like how you say little by little because I was thinking it might be a huge question, right? Maybe let's start with the job part, right? So you were a couple of years ago, or no, that's probably been more than 2 years. 2 years.
2011.
Okay, wow. And so can you kind of walk us through where you were like professionally before you started your business and then how did you turn it around?
So in 2011, I had been in corporate America for 15 years. I had a high level director job over several countries in Latin America. Loved certain parts of my job, like some of the people in Latin America were amazing to work with. Made a lot of money, had great perks, fabulous benefits. On paper, it looked like I was living this great life, had this job that everybody was like, oh, you're so lucky you get to travel the world. And I guess that was true in many respects. I made it to 6 out of 7 continents on that job, traveling by the time I was probably 32. But by the time I was 35, 36, I was so miserable in that job because it was not aligned with my core values. And I just was not in alignment at all with that job. Traveled a lot, had had a child at some point in that international career, and was not able to see her as much as I wanted to, and was really miserable. I was on, probably 7 medications in my mid 30s from
Um,
just stress. And I mean, it had physically made me sick. Just the lack of alignment. It wasn't even like a really stressful job. It was a fun job. I was completely burned out from the politics, from the backstabbing, from just all of that part that can happen in corporate America. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, maybe if I leave, I could be an entrepreneur. Maybe I won't be brave enough to try to be an entrepreneur. I don't know. But at some point, I knew I had reached the place where there was no amount of money, there was no amount of glamorous parts of the job that could keep me in that job because I was so miserable. I was physically sick, and I just left that job with no plan at all. Like, that was it for me. I had to get out, and left that job, had savings, and just thought, I'm going to take some time to sort of heal from the burnout and figure out what's next. So, no
so
plan.
wow. So tell me what, because I think many women can find themselves in that kind of what you call the gilded cage, right? You have the title, like it looks like you have like the perfect life. Many times like on the outside, people validate, right, and are impressed. And sometimes you're running a team, like you said, you have the title, and what others would call, you're fortunate or lucky to have. When did you start realizing on the inside that something is off, that something is not working for you?
There were some things that happened within that environment with the leadership that for me, I could not reconcile being a part of. I don't
Okay.
really want to get into details just because of, different people or whatnot. But there were definitely some things that happened that I was like, this is not okay. This is not how things should happen. And I just all of a sudden felt my alignment just so far out of whack. And if you've ever been out of alignment, especially with a job or a relationship or something that's such a huge part of your life. I mean, you spend more time at work than you probably do at home. So if you're out of alignment there, it physically can make you sick. It can make you just so miserable to live like that. And so I just got to the place that for a long time, it probably was a couple of years that I was like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to save money. I've got to figure it out. What am I going to do next? I started interviewing for other jobs and sort of came to the realization if I'd made a jump from where I was so miserable that I might make the wrong jump.
Okay.
I
So
don't
you
know if that
did.
makes sense, but I just felt like I wasn't in the place mentally to be able to make a good decision. And I didn't really know at the time what I even wanted to do next and what all was so bad about that situation for me. So I just needed time. And so I took time.
Yeah, that's very courageous because I think there's this kind of wisdom or advice that many times people say is like the best time to find a job is while you still have a job. But I think in reality, you really need to understand yourself because that's not always your truth. So it's amazing that you kind of started putting some of the steps or taking some of the steps and planning for an exit, but then you also realized that you're not in the best position to make a decision like that while you had that job.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, it's hard to find a job when you don't have a job. And I mean, that was terrifying about just leaving and not knowing what I was going to do next and how marketable I would be and thinking I'll never make this much money again. And, I just got to the place that I was like, money is just money. And I am sick and I am not being a great mom because I am sick and miserable and just sort of pulled the trigger one day and started talking to my boss in human resources and was like, I have to get out of here. This
Wow.
is not working for me. I am really unhappy. Y'all don't want me here.
Wow. And so how did you overcome the fear or get the clarity, have the clarity, okay, this is it. Like I'm done.
It was really funny in the middle of the night one night, and I was not a super religious person at that time or anything. I literally sat bolt right up in bed in the middle of the night and screamed out, God help me.
Mm,
Completely out of character for me, very unusual. And that was whenever I realized like I am at a place where I have to do something. And it was probably that next week, I think, that I started really having those conversations and
hmm.
got out. So it was almost like my body, there's that saying, the body keeps the score. It
Yeah.
was like my body was revolting in every possible way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like saying no more, like you can't keep going like that. So how did you feel? How did you feel at the time when you by the time you decided to give the resignation and what?
I have never been so happy in my life as whenever I finalized everything with human resources and was leaving, and was leaving that day. I mean, I had put in notice, obviously, so I wasn't leaving for good, but I remember the human resources guy who we had become good friends working together over the years. And he said, well, try not to cartwheel out on your way out today. I'll never forget because I was crying, and I'm not someone who cries. I was crying with relief and release once we just kind of like got everything lined up and I knew that I was really done and it was over and I was free and and I said, and I remember I told him, I said, I have never felt this good, this relieved, or this euphoric in my life except when I had my baby girl when she
Wow.
was born. Like it was the best feeling I have ever had.
Wow. Oh, talk about that, like a sign or confirmation, right? That you're doing the right thing. And so what happened next?
And so then, I had a lot of other things going on in my life. So once I quit my job, I realized that the marriage that I was in that I had been trying not to deal with was really an abusive marriage and that I needed to get out of that marriage for the sake of my child and the safety of my child. So I did that next. So a couple of months later, I addressed that, got out of that situation, and then realized that even without the job that I didn't like, even without the husband who was dangerous and unpredictable, I still needed to drink every night And so I realized I am an alcoholic and I have to get help and quit drinking. So in 6 months' time, from the day I left the corporate job, I had left the corporate job, left the abusive marriage, and gotten sober. So it was a very busy 6 months, and none of that was really planned. But it was kind of like once you start moving, it's like everything sort of starts aligning around you and making sense. And you realize, like, I was made for more. I can do better than this. And you just kind of keep going.
Talk about, yeah, talk about like a huge transformation, right? Huge steps and change. So, were you always a courageous person?
I don't know. I think that was probably those were my big courageous moves there. But it's funny. It's like I tell clients when they're stuck or they're feeling like they don't know where to go next, they're feeling lost or whatever. I'm like, you're not happy, so you just have to move forward. And once you start moving forward, energy will align around you. The universe will follow and you will get somewhere better, even if you don't know where you're going. So just start taking actions. And that is based on the fact that that was what I did. It was one of those things that I can't wait until I have a full plan on
Yeah.
exactly what I'm going to do here. I am miserable. I have to just move. I have to make movements forward and I'll figure it out as I go. And I don't know if it was as much courageous. You're very kind for saying that, but I think it might have been more desperation of being so miserable. I don't know that
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
might have been a little bit of courage, but it was a lot of just misery.
Because I'm just thinking, the reason I said courageous because like what I hear, right? So many of us, like, if there's a big change, like with a job, then like tremendous fear can be kicked up, right? Or that, you like a person will cling even to a relationship that's not optimal or not, because they, will find some sort of security or known. So that's why I say courageous, because I think it takes tremendous strength to address, right? One after the other. And like you said, just taking step by step without having a plan.
Yes, without having a plan. And yes, it did. It took strength, and I'm very proud of that, but of that whole situation. But at the end of the day, it was really more of just movement forward until I figured it out.
Mm.
It was messy movement, and I mean, there was really no plan for any of it. I mean, it was really pretty crazy. I mean, even the marriage that I needed to get out of for years and years, I made that decision like after something horrible happened one night. And the next day I woke up and called the marriage counselor and was like, I am not safe. My child is not safe. I have to get out of this. I need your help. We have
Mhm.
to get him to your office today, make a plan, and get him
Wow.
out of my house or whatever. But I mean, it was not like I was plotting that out even for like days. It was a 24-hour
Yeah.
like decision.
And did you feel like how much fear did you feel along the way? Or did you just like with everything going on, were you just kind of taking it one day at a time and you had this clarity?
Well, in the case of the marriage, I had what I would call a literal wake up call where one night, middle of the night, I was sleeping with my child in the next room and I was awakened by the full weight of my husband on top of me hitting me
Oh my
and
God.
telling me I was a terrible person and that he was going to kill me.
Oh my God.
And I reached for the nightstand for my phone and he, knocked it out of the way and said, "Oh, what are you going to do? Are you going to call the police? Is that what you're going to do? Is that the kind of mom you are? Selfish? And you're going to have Riley's dad hauled off in front of her and traumatize her? Yeah, that seems like something you would do." And turned it around completely into this whole other situation and whatever. And when that was finally over, that night I didn't sleep. I just sat there and thought, okay, what am I going to do? Like, what do I need to figure out financially, legally, whatever? Can the counselor help me so that I can get out of this safely? Where's he going to go? Like, just worked the whole plan and then called the counselor in the morning, and she was super supportive and helpful and helped me do that in a way that was safe because she was concerned about his reaction. So we did it in her office, and she even had strategized, like canceled her appointment after that so nobody would be in her waiting room and rearranged her furniture so that we were closest to the door to be able to get out if we needed to, so we didn't get trapped in there.
Wow.
Um,
Oh my
but it
God.
was. it
That's
was very quick and she was a lot of help.
that's a lot to go through. So I guess my question, and I think everybody's question would be, how did you, so if I'm thinking it's like three different pretty toxic situations, right? At work, it got bad, right? It sounds like pretty bad. Also, in your personal life, a couple of things, the alcohol and also your ex-husband got really bad. So, how did you turn it around?
So after I made all of those changes, I was able to see more clearly also after I quit drinking. That was the last change that I made. And you can just see more clearly once you are not drinking every night, obviously. And I just started to realize I've got to start doing something at some point to figure out what I'm going to do financially because at that point, a single mom who's not getting any child support. And I have to, I have savings, but they're not going to last forever. Was in my mid 30s and needed to do something else. So I started, I dusted off my resume and put that out there. And I looked a little bit at different businesses and just started putting feelers out and trying to see. And it was really funny because God and the universe really wanted me to be an entrepreneur, which is what I'd always wanted to do. But every door would get closed. Like I flew to New York for an interview, totally thought I was getting that job, interviewed with all of these people. It was in the industry I'd been in for 15 years, got back, got a call from that headhunter that was like, actually, they're going to sell the company. They just decided. And I'm like, what? Okay, great. And then I had another offer with a headhunter had contacted me, and I had an offer with the premier magazine in Dallas. And they wanted me to come do a startup TV division, which was like a dream come true, like this amazing brand, a TV station and whatnot, because they really liked some of the experience on my resume about starting things up. And I had never done anything in TV. I'd never done anything with a magazine. And I was like, this is going to be the coolest opportunity I can even imagine and whatever. And so I had my start date was January 2nd and I was ready to go. It was the holidays. I go pick up my new Lexus SUV on Christmas Eve morning. I get home. I have a message from the owner of the magazine, and he essentially says, this horrible thing that has nothing to do with you has happened, and we have to rescind the offer
Whoa.
on Christmas Eve as a single mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So I had a little pity party, and then the next day was Christmas. So I had to rally for my kiddo and whatnot. And throughout that day or whatever, as I was thinking about it, I was like, all that is a sign from the universe and from God closing doors to send me back to the entrepreneur place, which is where I'm supposed to be. There is some reason that every time I have an offer or almost have an offer, something crazy happens, right? And so I realized if I had gone back into those any of those types of jobs that had been, that would have also been corporate America ish,
Yeah.
I would have been just as miserable probably because of all the same reasons. I wouldn't have had work life balance. I wouldn't have had, whatever. So I decided to reframe that next day the situation and realize this is for the best. I'm going to buy a business, hard stop, the end. And so that next January 2nd, I called a business broker and said, hi, I would like to buy a business and I'm very serious and I want to do it as soon as possible. This is my budget. When can we meet? And he said, we can meet this week. And I said, okay, great. And I went in and met with him. And I was in my spa that I now own and have owned for 10 years. That has been amazing on the 1st of March.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's
So
a
everything
movie.
aligned because when it's the right thing, everything aligns.
Mm,
Everything is easy, right?
I love
And that was my really messy, weird journey to entrepreneurship. And so I don't know. It was just one of those things that I realized that this is what the universe wants me to do. And then whenever I got to the spa, it was also interesting because I met the current owner, did a little meeting, and her selling price was a little bit more than I had to offer. And so I was really bummed because I was like part of me, every bit of energy in my body is pulling me towards this opportunity. I know this is what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
And I had never considered owning a spa. Like that was something that was not on my radar at all. But I knew once I met her and talked to her about the model, and I knew this was what I was supposed to do, but I didn't have all the money. And so I spent a little bit of time for a couple of days manifesting, like, I know this is for me. And I spent time thinking, like, what would I look like as a spa owner? Like, what would I get to wear? Would I get to wear like sundresses and like cute sandals and things that I never got to wear in corporate America? And, could I grow my hair long and cute and not have to have it like short and professional, like they always like kind of almost made me in corporate America? And really thought about what would I look like? And then I went and secret shopped the spa, went in for a facial
Uh-huh.
and saw the space, and then like would imagine myself in the space greeting clients,
Love that.
and just did all of this visualization around it or whatever. And I was like, I've just got to find a way. And the next thing you knew, the business broker called me and he said, the owner said that she will owner finance that last amount of money that you don't have because she really likes you and wants you to take over the spa. She wants you to own it. And I
Wow.
was like, okay, this is like more alignment from the energy. I mean, just everything fell into place. And so it was all, and then it was really fast. And she and I had a good relationship and a good transition. And it was all really easy. And I think that when you're on that path of least resistance and things are easy, that means you're on the right path. When things are really hard and,
Yeah,
everything is difficult and you don't want to do it, you're doing something wrong. You need to make a change. So
I love
I don't
that.
know.
I was
Yeah.
just thinking that, like the kind of going back to what you said, then when it's the right thing, it happens easily, right? It's
Mhm.
simple and kind of the steps align and things end up working out. That's an amazing story. So, what would you say if somebody's sitting, okay, they don't like their current job, right? Whether they're burnt out, exhausted, drained, like you said, there's lack of alignment, right? That job is not energizing or energy giving and nourishing back to them, right? But they have built up a good career, good salary, right? Good title, they have climbed, gotten up the proverbial ladder, and then they are sitting with this, and maybe they're sitting, she's sitting with this question: do I look for another job, or do I start, right? Like, do I start something of my own? Like, what would be your advice on how to get clarity in that situation?
That, as I said before, the key is the movement forward. Even if it's messy, even if it's undirected, um, just start doing something in that direction. Whether it is um, dusting off and updating your resume and putting it out there just to see what's out there, or looking at what's out there, or thinking about what am I really good at? What do I really love to do? Is that something people need and would pay me for? And then trying maybe to see like if that's something you could offer to people and what they would say and what they would do, and try to put those feelers out and see what kind of experience you have with some of those things that you love in life. And you may find that you think that you really love that, but you don't. And then you can move on to the next thing that you think that you really love. So I think experimentation
Hmm.
and just trying to move forward and letting the universe sort of align around you is your best bet, because once you start moving forward, you're sort of unstoppable.
Hmm.
Like once you start moving forward, it's like the energy just it rallies around you, and it's like you're going somewhere, and you're going to go somewhere great. You
Hmm.
just may not know exactly where it is, and that's okay, but action is the key. Like what the last thing you want to do is sit there and just ruminate with those feelings of not liking your job or not feeling fulfilled or thinking there's something more and not acting on it.
Hmm.
You
No.
know, like any action is good action in my opinion.
And when you quit, right? Did you start, like, was your first step fully focused on looking for another job, or were you doing both in parallel, kind of a little bit of exploring the business idea, a little bit of updating your resume and submitting your applications?
I was doing a little bit of both, trying to figure it out. I knew in my heart of hearts I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I knew that was what was in my heart and soul, and maybe even my blood and my genes. And but it's scary at first, you know, it's daunting. I mean, I spent my entire life savings on a business plus an owner's loan as a single mom.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of terrifying, right? And
Right.
so all I kept thinking, I remember I'd come across this quote on Facebook during the middle of that, and I just kept thinking, it said, think of all the things that can go right instead of thinking of all the things that can go wrong.
Hmm.
And so I just, every time I would wake up in the middle of the night during that time and think, oh my gosh, what have I done? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I have to back out of this. This is too risky. It's all of my money. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know anything about owning a spa. Like, what am I doing? And I would just think about that quote. And then I would think about the fact that for months while I was playing with these different things and talking to headhunters and exploring different opportunities and looking at the different jobs on, like, there's not jobs, businesses that are on the different sites that you can go look at, like where people list businesses for sale. While I was doing all of that, I had this prayer that I said at least once a day. And every time that I like would be like, I don't know what I'm going to do next and
Yeah.
start kind of freaking out, I would say this prayer that was this, it was just these three very simple things. God, whatever I do next, please just let it be something that can align with my values, that I never have to put my values and ethics, you know, never have to compromise them again. Let it be something that allows my daughter and me to live a life, you know, independent on our own and is enough money to support us. And please, you know, let me have enough work life balance to be able to actually see her and raise her and be present for her. And so it was three super simple things, really, but those really aren't that easy to get in a job if you really think about it. And so um, when I realized the spa, I was like, this is all of those things. Because I'm talking to the owner and the person who was the owner at the time, and she's like, well, it's kind of an owner absent business. I'm only in there like several hours a week, and then I do several hours from home, and I do it while my kids are at school. And I'm like, well, that's the most perfect thing I can really imagine. And
Yeah.
then the cash flow, when I started doing the due diligence, the cash flow was exactly what my salary had been at my job.
That's
Like it
amazing.
was exactly, yeah, exactly my salary. And so I was like, these, I mean, I just knew that was for me. It was crazy.
That's amazing. And so how, I was going to ask you, how did the spa come about?
So the broker, it was really funny because I was telling him about all the different businesses I might be interested in that I thought would be good opportunities. And he said, this is crazy. I just talked to somebody the other day who has a spa, and I think it's the right opportunity for you. It's not even for sale yet. She hasn't even decided to list it yet. But I just feel like with your background in the beauty industry and, you know, your background with like subsidiaries, so smaller, you know, smaller businesses and whatnot, like this is the perfect fit for you. And I said, I remember I looked at him and I said, Michael, I'm not buying a spa. Like that sounds ridiculous. Cause I'm thinking of like a very luxurious. I don't know. I was just like, that's not me. And then he started telling me about the model. And then I went online and I looked at it, and the model is very much that it's, um, you know, it's facials for everyone. It's very much, you know, value for money, and anyone can get a facial. And I started thinking, you know, this would make it through a recession probably. And like, this isn't like a glamorous, weird thing that I would be doing that would be so out of character for me as a business person. This is a great business model. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's meet with her. And we didn't even know, she didn't even know if she wanted to sell it yet. And we met and it just all came together. So
Wow.
that was really the only business I got deep into looking at. And like I said, I mean, I was just energetically drawn to it. I knew that that was going to be the right thing.
So it's beautiful. Like you have that heartfelt prayer, right? Those three simple things. And it wasn't even with all the research or all the listings, like you said, you were going on some sites, right? Looking for businesses for sale, how it connected the dots, like you said, just easily through seeing the broker. And this was like a personal, like a bank branch.
A business broker. So he buys and sells businesses
Okay, okay. So you
for
found
people.
somebody who's local,
Yeah.
like, okay. Amazing. Amazing. And then the last piece of the story or the fairy tale is finding love, finding happy,
Yes.
healthy love.
Yes. Which I also wasn't looking for. So it's just crazy the way that life happens when you're not looking for things. After that first marriage, I really wasn't interested at all in ever even dating. It was not really something that I was that interested in, but I met my husband and we were immediately just had so many things in common. And it was like talking to somebody that you've known your whole life.
Mhm.
And a funny thing, he had just left, he was a lawyer and he had just left his corporate job where he was the general counsel to buy a painting franchise. Totally different thing because he really liked the business model and he wanted freedom and he wanted time with his kids and work life balance and all the same things. And we had even set up the way we both bought our businesses in this very convoluted way. And it's like we did it the same way, where you roll over part of your 401k and it's called like a rainmaker fund. And I don't know anyone else to this day who's ever told me they bought their business that way, but we had both bought our businesses that way. And
Wow.
so it was just everything about it. And we both had just had such a rough time in corporate America at the end where we were like, the money's not worth it and whatnot. And both had gone into these fields that we had never would have never believed. Like if you would have ever told this successful lawyer that he was going to buy a painting franchise, he would have never believed you. And I would have never believed you that I was going to own a spa. Um,
It's
so
so
we just had
awesome.
all these things in common and it was like magic. And our kids got along and I mean, just everything there came together. And so we were married within less than a year of meeting.
How did you meet?
We actually met on Christian Mingle,
Okay.
which a friend of mine had suggested I go on there because I was like, I'm so bored. Like, I don't really have any sober friends because, I was like sort of newly sober. And, I don't really have anything hardly to do except with this one friend. And she was like, why don't you go on to Christian Mingle and see if you could just meet people to like go on dates with and be friends with and just put it on your profile that you're looking for a friend. You're looking for friends more than like romance or whatever. And so I did that and that friendship turned into a romance almost immediately. And he was like one of the first people I met too
Wow.
on there because the first ones I was like, okay, you're kind of weird. Okay, you're kind of a little bit odd. You're calling me princess and I've never met you. This isn't going to work. Like, this call's over. Like, whatever. But then I met him and everything about him was fun and exciting and new. And he's just such a great guy. And so now we've been married for almost 10 years. And yeah,
Wow.
we've blended this beautiful family and it's just kind of a dream come true. I would have never believed you if you told me I was ever going to get married again.
I love your story. It's like such a turnaround story, right? Of transformation and happy ending that all everybody wants. I love it. So and then you kind of sometime down the road now, more recently, you're also kind of have discovered, I don't know what the right way to say it, or you're I don't know if you're transitioning or maybe you will say it best about like new interests kind of I think it's a metamorphosis, right? So that our purpose changes, it transforms, right? And that's where kind of in one season of our life we do this one thing, right? Where you had the corporate job, then the next season of your life you had the spa, and then what what happens next after some time you realize
Well, you said that so beautifully that life is about seasons and all of those things served their purpose, and have served their purpose. And the spa has been amazing for me for the last years. And because I don't have to be there all the time, it's allowed me to raise children and be the room mom and be on every field trip and really be present for my kids and still make a great living. And that's been wonderful. But a couple years ago, I started feeling like there's got to be more. There's got to be more of a purpose. And as I got I think as I got older too, I started thinking, like I feel like I want to give back more. And I didn't know how. And I spent a couple years trying to figure it out. And then I started doing meditations for manifesting, which was new to me. Meditation wasn't new to me and manifesting wasn't new to me, but meditation for manifesting was new. And that, I tell you, brings together a lot of magic when you combine those two things. And in this meditation, I saw where I was going to write a book about everything that I had gone through and how it had turned around, as you say, and all the strategies that I came up with during that time to Because I did those kind of in a vacuum. I made all those changes really in a vacuum and with not much of a support system. And so I had to discover and research and figure things out. And so I'd come up with all these strategies. And so I saw in this meditation where I would write a book about that. And then I saw in this meditation where I would start coaching women and really helping women in different situations to become all that they could be. And I had never in my life considered writing a book or coaching. And it just sort of came to me as this is this thing I'm going to do. And I told my husband, I was like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to do these things. And he was like, of course you are. Go for it. That's amazing. And so I did all of those things last year. And it's funny because my story that I have just told you guys, I had actually never told a living soul all those details. Not my husband, not my best friends, because I got married and we moved to a different suburb and I just kind of started over with new friends. And none of them knew any of these things about me. Nobody knew I was an alcoholic. Nobody knew I was in an abusive marriage. Nobody knew any of these things. And I really guarded those secrets with my life because I felt a lot of shame around those, which I don't feel anymore. I've been freed because of putting it out there and being able to help people with
Yeah.
using those experiences. But I felt so much shame for so long. So um, I suddenly wrote this book that has all of it in there. And
Wow.
as my husband was reading that book, like the first draft, he was like, "Wait, what?" Like there were so many things in there that he didn't even know. And so it was great for that intimacy of our relationship. It's been great for the closeness of the relationships that I have with friends. Now there's a different vulnerability because that is out there also. But I mean, I would have never believed you if you told me 2 years ago I was going to write a book and tell this story and tell it to everyone and go on podcasts and tell people. And that when you Googled my name, it would come up Christy Freddo, an alcoholic in an abusive relationship who, finds joy and finds love or whatever, that would be something I would put out there for the world
Mhm.
instead of having this facade of I live this beautiful, happy life. And
Mhm.
I would have never believed you. And it was just something that literally, again, came through meditation and manifestation. And it was like a vision almost. And it has been the most amazing thing. I mean, I love coaching. I mean, I told my husband the other day, if we won the lottery tomorrow and had millions and millions of dollars and never had to work again, I would still coach people for free because I love doing it so much. And I love those aha moments and I love seeing them be able to move forward
Mhm.
and get unstuck. And so that's been this great fun new chapter that was also really unexpected. And it's also kind of a bonus because my youngest child will graduate in a year and a half, and then I'll be an empty nester, and I'll have a spa and a coaching business to work on. So I won't be bored or sad, I guess, when she leaves for college. So that all came together nicely too.
Yeah, that's amazing because you're also following your own path, right? And um executing on it. I'm like, I was thinking, what's the right, you're kind of living your own life, right? It's not just through taking care of, your kids or your family. You are following your own light. So this meditation thing, so how this coaching, right? How did it come to you through kind of your own meditation or through a meditation you were leading?
It was a guided meditation. And I about manifesting, and it was like, what do you see your future self doing?
So
Where
somebody
are you?
guiding the meditation?
Yeah, it was like a recorded
Oh,
meditation for
okay, wow.
manifesting. And I just saw all of this. And I
Like
was like
therapy.
in this body doing these things and talking to people in like this room and having conversations with people. And they're talking about their transformations and all of these things. And then it was like, and then all of a sudden I was like, and I'm writing a book. Like I just kind of finished the meditation. I was like, and I'm writing a book about all of these things because I don't
That's
even know. It was
amazing.
like it just came to me as the thing that I needed to do. And so,
That's amazing. So it sounds like so that to me is a clear example of like, connection with your inner guidance, right? Your inner guidance coming through, right? And you listening to it. Did you always feel like you were connected with your intuition and inner guidance up until then?
yes, yes. very much so.
Mm.
Like, have always felt like I kind of know, sometimes know a little bit about very intuitive, know a little bit about what's going to happen before it happens. Always feel energetically drawn to whatever it is that is meant for me.
Mm.
So I've just always been sort of naturally in tune with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
think we all are. I mean, we're all intuitive. It's just developing that and recognizing that,
mhm.
because I think so many of us have those feelings or think something and then we're like, oh, I can't do that. Or
Yeah.
what is that crazy thought? And we just dismiss it. And I, over the years, have just gotten to the place where I listen to it and act on it. And I'm
Mm.
sure some people think I'm crazy. I'm sure some people are making fun of me. Like, what is she doing now? Like, she's totally crazy. Now she's coaching people. Like, she already has a spa. Why is she doing that?
I think that's
Um,
awesome.
but at the end of the day, it's just I follow those things and it makes me really happy.
Mhm.
And I think everybody should follow those whispers that you hear, because that's, you can call it your intuition, your higher self, God, the universe, but whatever it is, it's leading you to your best self.
Yeah.
And if you don't listen, then you miss out.
And this is just like rewinding a little bit in your story. So, what do you think? Where did you lose that connection when you were in your work that you had to get to the point of having body pains, right? And like kind of quiet
It's
thought.
funny when I think about my corporate career as it started out, like I loved it and I was in a training, I in the training department
Mhm.
originally, and developed training and did stand-up training and felt like I was really helping people.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I was really connected to that, right? And
Yep.
then as time went on, I moved into marketing, which was amazing because it was fun and it was creative and it was a little bit glamorous. And then I moved into international marketing. And, I'm an achiever, like on the Enneagram, I'm achiever, right? And so I think got kind of obsessed with achieving the next level, the next thing, and that became more important than anything else. And I'll also add, I was not the nicest person during those years, not just because I was miserable, but because I was like a dog with a bone to try to achieve the next level of my career and whatnot. And I just completely lost myself. And I mean, I think about it now, and I mean, I would literally say something to somebody in a meeting when they just presented something and they whatever, and I would say, so you're saying XYZ, and they're like, yeah, and I'd say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Mm.
I can't even imagine now saying that or being in a room where someone said that to somebody and me not going, that wasn't very nice, and like defending that person or whatever. Like I can't even
Mhm.
relate to that person I had become,
Mhm.
but I had completely lost myself. I mean, you're totally right when you say that. I mean, I had lost touch with, definitely with my higher self, definitely with God, definitely with higher purpose. It's crazy. It was just like nothing's going to get in my way of this career and these achievements. And then once I got those, I was like, I'm the most miserable person in the world. And this all looks great on paper, but I hate it. And I hate who I am. So a big part of that was also that we didn't talk about was changing who I was, which just sort of happened over time with those experiences into a completely different person. Like when I tell my husband about how mean I was in corporate America and how embarrassed I am and how horrible I feel, and even tell him stories, he's like, I can't even imagine you doing that. Like you're the nicest person. Like I can't even imagine. And it's amazing how much we can grow and change and evolve over time and then get lost and then get back to our true selves.
I think what's so beautiful is because I can relate. Like I see myself in your story, right? In components of your story. And in there have been ways like where I look back where I'm not proud how I acted and somehow within the framework, right? At the time, we justify it and we also see modeled behavior. We also worked with those people and those people are in leadership positions. So you kind of emulate and it's kind of all conditioning culture. It comes and it takes tremendous clarity and many times it's hindsight is 2020. And I was reading this beautiful quote by Maya Angelou that the definition of success is liking who you are.
Yes.
And I think and the reason I'm asking the question is because I think everybody like your story, other people can see parts of themselves, right, through your story. And sometimes like we don't see them in real time, and we're all human. So that's, I mean, I think it's so beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing so openly and vulnerably. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so like amazed at how kind of what kind of transformation you've had in your life.
It has been an interesting and crazy ride, and I am so thankful for it.
Yeah. What would you say, one thing that you would say to somebody, either advice or encouragement, I don't know, whatever is appropriate, for somebody who's still sitting in kind of that corporate job, right? Knowing that it's not in alignment, but at the same time being too busy, right? Achieving all the things, right? And not knowing even what the next step is, right? What that right path is, given that they've accomplished, like you said, maybe director, maybe manager, maybe senior individual contributor, a certain level of success. How, like, what's your advice on how to know what is the next best step to take?
Any step is the next best step. Any movement forward, just move forward. Anything that you do to start making a change from where you are today is going to be helpful. And if you can just trust the universe and trust the process, and it's so hard. I know it's so hard because I've been there, but if you can just trust there is something better for me, right? And um, just you can't see the whole staircase, and that's okay. But if you can just see that first step, whatever that looks like to you, and take that first step, it's all going to come together. It's all going to realign around you. But if you don't take action, if you don't move forward in some way, in any way, in a messy way, it doesn't matter what way, if you don't take action, nothing's going to happen. It's not just going to come to you if you just sit there and think about it and wait for something to happen. Just move forward. Any
Mm,
step is the right step.
I love that. And for you, how long did it take when when you ended your job? Did you take some time to decondition, like to let your body or nervous system relax?
I did, but I was in such a bad situation overall. I mean, I was an alcoholic in an abusive relationship and in a toxic job. Like, I mean, I was just such a hot mess and didn't even know I was so busy and just in such a bad place. I really couldn't even figure out what I needed to do. So I think that was an extreme example. I think for most people, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's 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 a different situation. I don't know if everybody has to take that minute to decompress. I think it depends on your level of burnout, your level of misery, what else you have going on in your life. I think a lot of people could just start taking steps today. Most people probably could just start taking little steps today. And the more you move forward, the more you start to have momentum and the more you get redirected.
Mm-hmm.
You may move forward and it's not in the right direction. That's okay because the universe will close those doors and it will redirect you. And rejection is just redirection. And so
Yeah.
you just have to have that right attitude that you try things and you may fail, or you try things and you may get rejected. And that's okay. That's just redirection onto the right path. And you got to be super thankful for that when that happens.
I love that. I think your story is a great inspiration, right? Of some people, because sometimes I think we stay in those jobs, right? Because we think about the scenarios that can be worse, right?
Yes.
We don't connect like the scenario, because everybody else will also mirror back, oh, the market is bad, or, what are you thinking financially, right? Or like you said, you have a child, you have a mortgage, right? You have all these responsibilities. You might be single, right? Or a single mom, like you said, right? There's all these healthcare, right? All these, why not to make a change, right? Why not to move forward to something that's truly much more aligned with you, and that you actually speak to you're an example that's something where you can work less, make the same money, right? And rebuild your life and have a life for yourself and your child, right? And so I think we need more of these stories. So thank you.
Yes. And the world, I mean, everyone is conditioned for fear and
Yep.
negativity and whatnot. So it's going to be hard to find support to leave your job that's a really successful job that you've worked hard for. It's not going to be easy to find support from people. You're going to have to find it in yourself. And that's where you have to kind of keep repeating the saying that, instead of thinking about all the things that can go wrong, think about all the things that can go right.
We come back to that. I love
And I didn't tell people I didn't tell anybody I was leaving my job. I didn't even tell the guy I was married to I was going to leave my job till I
Well,
came home that day and had finalized everything. I didn't tell a soul because I knew everybody would say, "You are a crazy person. You make so much money. You have such a cool job." And when I went to buy the spa, did not tell one single soul until I had signed on the dotted line and it was done because I knew that I would not get the support that I needed and people might talk me out of it because I knew people would say, "You are a single mom
mhm.
putting all of your life savings into something that you know nothing about."
All
And
the good
that
meaning advice, right?
Right. And all I could say is I am energetically pulled to this and I know that this is the right thing. And I may not have done this particular business before, but I've been very successful in other businesses before and it's going to translate and I feel good about it. But I didn't want anybody to tell me. And I remember the first person I told after I did it said to me, "Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you really put all your eggs in one basket." That was the response. Sounds like you really put all your eggs in one basket. And I thought, thank God I didn't talk to you 3 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's encouraging, quote unquote. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's smart. Okay, you can tell me I'm nice or whatever. You're courageous. So, no doubt about it. So tell people how can they follow you and how can they connect with you?
So our website's bestlifemindset.com and you can email me directly. I love to hear from people and talk to people. Christy at bestlifemindset.com.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much, Christy.
This has been so fun. I have really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.